This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Good afternoon, my Real News Media TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update for February 19, 2023. And in the news this afternoon, a policeman shot and injured in Mobay. A police constable attached to the St. James Police Quick Response Team was shot by a gunman while on duty on Barnett Street in downtown Montego Bay on Saturday evening. The incident occurred about 10 p.m. The police say they were proceeding along Barnett Street when a man was seen acting suspiciously. The police alleged that on their approach, the man pulled a firearm and opened fire, hitting the constable in the right shoulder. The team reportedly took evasive action and returned the fire, however, the man escaped. The policeman was treated at hospital and released. Meanwhile, the police are reportedly trying to ascertain whether a man who turned up with gunshot wounds at hospital in Trelawney was the person involved in the shooting. Portland records first murder for 2023. Portland on Saturday recorded its first murder for 2023 following the shooting death of a man in the farming community of Skibo shortly after 9:45 p.m. Police sources have confirmed the incident and say the deceased, whose identity has not yet been ascertained, only recently moved to the Skibo community. The police say preliminary reports suggest that the man was among a group of young men standing near a shop when men drove up in a vehicle and opened gunfire. The deceased was hit and later pronounced dead by a medical doctor. Chef killed in vehicular crash. The Runaway Bay Police in St. Anne are investigating a motor vehicle collision which has resulted in the death of a man. He is Omain Brown, a 25-year-old chef of Hopewell Park Discovery Bay in St. Anne. Brown was reportedly driving a Toyota Starlet motorcar about 6:30 p.m. Saturday when he lost the control of the vehicle in the vicinity of the Bahia Principe Hotel in Runaway Bay. The car crashed into a concrete utility pole. An injured Brown was rushed to the St. Anne's Bay Hospital, where he died. Opposition seeks answers on FBI involvement in SSL probe. Opposition spokesman on finance Julian Robinson is questioning whether the Federal Bureau of Investigation is involved in the probe of the fraud at Stocks and Securities Limited, as had been announced by Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark. Robinson points out that head of the Counterterrorism and Organized Crime Division, Assistant Commissioner of Police Anthony McLaughlin, stated on Friday that local law enforcement had the capacity to conduct the investigation and did not need the assistance of the FBI at this time. McLaughlin had stated that the FBI would be brought in if needed. However, Robinson said in a media release on Sunday that this is in stark contrast to the prior public statement by the Minister of Finance that the FBI were to be engaged in the investigation of the SSL debacle. He said Jamaica needs to know what the true position is and called for Clark to state whether the FBI is in fact involved in the investigation. Financial Investigations Division, which is leading the probe, said that it still cannot quantify the overall fraud but confirmed the prior reports that Jamaican athletics star Usain Bolt had been fleeced of approximately US $12.7 million, or nearly Jamaican $2 billion. The fraud is believed to be at least Jamaican $3 billion. In the meantime, Robinson is also demanding the following: a release of all examination reports done by the Financial Services Commission in relation to SSL, to include minutes of FSC board meetings and reports from FSC management to the board. A special audit of the FSC by the Auditor General's Department to determine appropriateness of actions of the regulatory entity and whether it had the resources and the technical expertise to carry out its functions. Confirmation that international forensic expertise has now been engaged in relation to the massive fraud at SSL and the disclosure of their terms of reference. Robinson also wants the Ministry of Finance to conduct an audit of all government agencies and the public bodies to ensure adherence to guidelines regarding the investment of public funds in financial institutions. He noted that this issue was highlighted 2 years ago when the Airports Authority of Jamaica made an investment in First Rock. DPP Reacts To Injunction filed challenging extension of her tenure. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Paula Llewellyn-Casey, says that the office is not short of successors. However, there are a number of priority projects that are incomplete. Ms. Llewellyn was reacting to a suit filed in the Supreme Court seeking an order to bar the government from extending her appointment. Attorney at law Hugh Wildman, who filed the documents challenging the extension of the DPP's tenure, is asking the court to rule that Ms. Llewellyn not to be allowed to operate in her current post when she reaches the age for early retirement. He had also been challenging her latest extension of tenure, stating that the documents were never gazetted. Speaking at the Rotary Club of Kingston weekly meeting on Friday, Ms. Llewellyn made it clear that there are seniors among the cadre of 58 attorneys who are efficient and capable of filling the post. Ms. Llewellyn was granted a 3-year extension in July 2020, as she was due to retire in September 2020 at age 60. Prime Minister Andrew Holness, in announcing the extension of her tenure, said she performed well over her 12 years in office. Then, opposition leader Peter Phillips had objected to the extension. Close to 1,000 Jamaicans applied for birth certificates through Operation Birthright project. 5 months after the launch of the Operation Birthright project, close to 1,000 Jamaicans have submitted applications to receive birth certificates. The document will be issued free of cost as part of an initiative under the National Identification System NITS project. Minister without portfolio with responsibility for the Registrar General's Department, Floyd Green, says a public education campaign will be launched next week to encourage more Jamaicans to sign up. Mr. Green was speaking Wednesday at the handover of birth certificates to 36 inmates at the St. Catherine Adult Correctional Center, where he said a number of inmates are not officially registered. He says a birth certificate can assist an inmate in becoming employable and suggested a memorandum of understanding between the Department of Correctional Services and Operation Birthright to help those in need. Operation Birthright is being funded at a cost of $350,000 or 50 million Jamaican dollars. The project is targeting 11,000 Jamaicans and is being executed by the RGD. Parliamentary opposition raising concerns ahead of new electric buses deployment. The parliamentary opposition is raising concerns ahead of the deployment by government of new electric buses. The first 35-seater bus, which arrived in the island last year, was launched during a ceremony at the office of the Prime Minister last month. At that launch, it was revealed that after the completion of the licensing and insurance processes, as well as staff training and desensitization, the Jamaica Urban Transit Company would be embarking on a pilot project to test the unit in anticipation of the arrival of another 5 such electric buses. However, as the public eagerly awaits the addition of the buses to the state-run bus services fleet, opposition spokesman on transport Michael Phillips is seeking answers about the way forward. Mr. Phillips says he is unsure the JUTC is ready for the road with the new buses and questions whether adequate provisions are in place to deal with the servicing of the buses and related issues. Addressing the recent launch of the first electric bus, Prime Minister Andrew Holness asserted that the government was serious about its environmental commitments as well as its climate change obligations. The Prime Minister stressed that government is committed to its fiscal arrangements to ensuring that the JUTC does not become a fiscal risk or threat to the government. The company plans to increase its fleet of buses by 50 in the new fiscal year. The JUTC's management said the fleet increase should boost the passenger numbers in the next fiscal year by 72% to $31 million at an average of 85,000 passengers per day. The projections are contained in the recently tabled Jamaica Public Bodies Estimates of Revenue and Expenditure for year ending March 2024. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.